Hi everyone, my name is Paul. I've heard some parents tell their kids stories about being brought by the stork when they were born, or by Santa Claus, or found in a gift bag at Thanksgiving. At first, when you're little, you kinda don't care. You just believe it and that's it. But when you get older, there are questions, and my parents didn't lie to me. They told it like it was. I was bought. And the story went like this. My mum and dad came to the toy store to choose a gift for the birthday of a child of acquaintances. They spent a long time looking for what to choose and went into the doll department. My mum took a long time to choose which doll to get, started rummaging around the toys, and then there was a cry. She and my father were very frightened. It turned out that among the baby dolls was a wrapped ball. It was me. And also, most interestingly, I had a barcode attached to the diaper. Maybe it was glued there by accident, torn off someone else's doll. Dad wanted to report me to the police, but Mum didn't let him do it right away. She took me gently in her arms and admired me. The thing was, she couldn't have children of her own after my sister Alice. Mum had been treated for years, but no way. And Mum thought it was just a gift from heaven. She persuaded my father to pretend that I was a doll, just an ordinary toy. Mum rocked me and I fell asleep, and they went to the cash register, closed the doll, and brought me to the machine themselves, which beeped. The sleepy saleswoman didn't even ask why the doll was so heavy. I was punched in at the cash register and my mother immediately left, while my father stayed behind to pay. They kept the receipt and went home. They didn't go anywhere that day. They stayed home. Mum bought up everything she needed in the stores. Formula, diapers, bottles. From that moment on, she gave me the name Paul and became my new family. Of course, I consider myself lucky, because who knows how my life would have ended. My cries might have been confused with those of the dolls, for they are so believable, and I would have starved to death. Anyway, I was growing up, everything was fine, but it wasn't until I was about 10 or 11 years old that I started to understand history. Before that, I thought it was a joke, until my mother showed me that very receipt from the store, and I started kind of having a fit. I wanted to know who my birth parents were and why they left me there. Mum, can I have that receipt? Okay, son, why do you want it? I just want to see. Okay, sure. I took a check from Mum and took a picture of it, then returned it to its place. Then I began to study the details, date, time of purchase, name of the cashier, and the name of the store. Then went looking for it and found it. It was an old toy store. It used to be very popular, but now it's so-so. I went inside and called the administrator and showed him a picture of the receipt and the name of the saleswoman. I was told she was no longer alive. Then I asked someone who worked with her that day, but they just shook their hands like it's impossible. Too much time had passed. But I wasn't going to give up. I went to the city archives and began to look for a phone number and address in the book. Found the place where she lived, that saleswoman, and went there to see her. It was a long way. I told my family that I would be at school and I skipped. I didn't take my friends with me, so I didn't have to talk too much. I had to hitch a ride to get there. I stopped in the middle of the road as I was putting out my hand, and a car stopped. There was a woman at the wheel. Where are you going? I need to get closer to the city. What for? To visit someone. Who? You don't know her anyway. Maybe I do. I'm old. I know a lot of things. I'm looking for Mrs. Gloria Fliz. She used to work at the toy store. Do you really know her? Yeah, I told you I know a lot of things. Do you know where she is now? At the cemetery. Oh, I mean, her address, where she lived. Why do you need her? I just wanted to clarify one thing that happened years ago. It was just on her watch. I'm on my way. I'll drop you off. That's how lucky I was. She brought me right to the house and didn't take a dime. The door was opened by her daughter. She let me in and I told it like it was. She was very surprised by the story and called it a fairy tale because it just couldn't be. But how could it be? I was told exactly. Here's the receipt, please. No, it couldn't be like that. But if you find a product with that barcode, the sticker, it's easy to check. For sure it was or not. What sticker? Each product has its own sticker. If it's not torn off, the code will match the code on the receipt. That's all I can advise. Nothing else I cannot help. There's definitely no camera footage because my mum has worked in that store her whole life and they don't keep them that long. But I also know that my mum is very responsible and she stupidly wouldn't miss a product in the form of a child, no matter how sleepy she was. By the way, your receipt shows the time of purchase as 3:10 p.m, at which time my mum didn't want to sleep because she has been on energy drinks her whole life, at which time she was just drinking it. I'll tell you that for sure, as a daughter. Wow, thank you. I got home late. I didn't talk to anybody. My sister was bugging me like who I was with and what I was doing. I just waved my hand away and said I was really tired. I went to bed. I hugged my favourite monkey and fell asleep. In the morning, my sister came into the room and asked me what I would like for my birthday. I said nothing, and then after thinking for a while, I said I wanted a toy from that store. My sister promised to buy it for me, and we went there together. Alice? Yeah? Were you here that day? What day? When Mum and Dad found me here? No, it wasn't. Why? It's just, I was wondering what shelf I was on and what I looked like. You were such a little lump. When I first saw you, I was surprised people were born so small. Which toy will you choose? This one. You already have a monkey. Yeah, but that one's old. We got it at the same store, by the way. Ha, I said, and I ran home and decided to check something. I compared the new receipt. The code coincided with the purchase. Then I took the old receipt and realized that the codes were the same there too. And that meant only one thing, that it was not my barcode and that I had been cheated. I felt uncomfortable, very bad and sad. I sat in my room and did not know where to put myself and decided to go outside. I walked along the road and thought about it. All of a sudden, someone honked their horn. Hey, baby, how are you? Oh, hello, ma'am. Here we are again, in passing as always. And what are you doing here? I'm living. In that house? Yeah. Wow, so you're that kid. What's that guy? The lady got out of her car and sat down on the bench next to me. She said she used to work at the hospital as a nurse, so she knew everybody. As I remember it now, Mr. and Mrs. Bradley were fidgeting, worried, and then a girl was brought in, their daughter. She was about to have surgery, an emergency C-section, because her kidneys were failing. Mr. Bradley held a monkey in his hand, the kind that used to be in fashion and sold in only one store in town. He put it on a gurney to his daughter, and she was gone for hours. The surgery didn't go as planned, but she survived, and so did the baby. I'm so guessing that's you, and you've grown very... Hey, why are you frozen? Are you telling me that Alice gave birth? Well, yeah, her parents don't have children because Mrs. Bradley is barren, and the daughter is adopted, and you're the grandson. What? Oh, did I say something wrong? But I was already off my feet and running home at full speed. I opened the door, took the monkey out of the room, and threw it on the floor. My parents were surprised, and so was Alice. She came up to me and started asking what happened. Don't touch me! What's wrong? You've been messing with me. Yes, Alice, are you my mother? There was silence in the room. Alice cried, and then she told me that she had gotten pregnant unexpectedly early, and so that somehow she could then study and build a life. My grandmother adopted me, telling everyone that I was found. They couldn't think of a better story. I was very depressed and had mixed feelings about finding out that your mother was your sister. Although, on the other hand, it explained a lot, like why we had such a warm relationship, not like everyone else. The truth had come out, and now all we had to do was accept it.
Hello everyone, my name is Cole. I'm from Mexico. We've been living in Spain for many years. I have a large family. Parents, grandmother, and 2 brothers and sisters. I am the eldest child in the family, so I have a lot of responsibility for the younger ones. And I am also the head of the family after my father. In short, I mean that any important decisions in the house are not made without me. I even take part in the discussion of buying a TV in the living room, you know? So, my father had some problems at work. He had to either quit himself or they would have fired him. He was very upset because he supported the whole family. At the next family meeting, I made a rough calculation and offered to go to another city, buy a new house, find a job in the same field where my father worked, and start a new life. My father didn't tell anyone, except me, that he was being forced out of his job because he was now being replaced by a man with a criminal past. His pride didn't allow him to admit it. So we came up with a plan to move out of the city. And since my grandmother, grandfather, and mother especially listened to my opinion, it was decided to move. We chose a city far away from where we lived, sold our house and apartment. With these funds, we bought one big house, as my mother always dreamed, and even had enough money for a car. We were lucky with the purchase of real estate. Just realtors told us that the owner of the apartment has long left, and sells up to cheap. It was amazing that we got it, but we were happy. We managed to choose a wonderful quiet area. In front of the house, there was a nice facade. The house had 2 floors, each with a room, a small courtyard on the street where my mother was going to build a summer kitchen. In general, although not the capital, but with amenities. For about a month, we equipped the rooms, the kitchen, made a summer house, and even bought a dog for the younger ones. We had a housewarming party in a small family circle, and then Dad got a job, and things got even better. I found an easy part-time job, and visited the Old People's Club every day to socialize. Thus, each of us chose an activity to our liking. One weekend, my father suggested that we go to his brother's house for the weekend. Everyone agreed, but I decided to stay. After seeing everyone off on a Saturday morning, I took the dog and went for a little walk with him to the store, bought ham, milk, eggs, and bread. There was nothing to eat at home. I left the groceries in the kitchen, went to the bedroom, changed my clothes, and when I came out, there was an empty bag on the table. I didn't know what the hell it was. The dog was in the room with me. Were they thieves? Then why do they need my products? I thought. Just in case, armed with a stun gun, I went through all the rooms with the dog. But everything was clean. Then I ordered a pizza, didn't finish it, left it on the table, and fell asleep. When I woke up a couple of hours later, the remnants were gone. It began to frighten me. I sat in the kitchen all day that day, but there was no one and nothing. At night, I installed my dad's old camera in the kitchen and went to sleep. What I saw the next day was shocking. A man broke into the house and stole my food, and he knew every corner of it. But I couldn't figure out where it went because the exit was on the other side. I dragged the camera to the front door the next night and then saw the man coming out into the backyard. I took the same stun gun with me and found the place where the man got out. Wow, I didn't even know we had a basement on this street. You can't even see it just like that. It was so well camouflaged. To be honest, I was terrified. I called a friend, and Carl arrived 15 minutes later. He brought my mother's pepper spray. I took my father's taser and flashlight, and we carefully opened the door and went downstairs. We did this very slowly, looking at everything around us step by step. When at last we were completely submerged in the basement, my dog beat us to it. She ran down and we heard screams. Carl and I looked at each other and ran after the dog. A long corridor appeared in front of us where everything was more or less arranged. Walls, ceiling, electricity. Running a little further, we saw a small room where our dog was standing, growling menacingly at the crowd of people. I shone the flashlight in their faces and saw 2 adults in front of me, a man and a woman, and 2 children. The children were particularly scared. I got the impression that they have been living there for a very long time. The light was dim enough, and the light from the flashlight made them close their eyes and cover their faces. After I chased the dog away, we just stared at each other. This family was so wild. They were dirty, scared. I noticed a pizza box on their table. "Did you steal my food?" I asked them loudly. They were startled by the voice. I repeated the question, but they were silent. Then Carl said he was going to call the police. Wait, the man shouted. "Yes, it would be me. I stole your food for the family. Please forgive me," he added. The longer we stood there and stared at each other, the more questions popped into my head. I told them all to go upstairs to talk. These people were not aggressive, but rather scared. They got up and went out into the courtyard. I stared at them, Carl holding the taser in plain sight just in case. Then the man started talking fast and fast. "Mister, please don't hurt my family. It's my fault for stealing the food. We used to always eat food from the trash, but this time I couldn't resist the goodies you bought. The fact is that no one has lived in this house for a long time," he said. Then I learned from our long conversation that this used to be their home. Once upon a time, they took out a loan that they could not pay, and as a deposit, they left a house that they later lost. But this was not enough, and they still owed money to some friends. I built this basement a long time ago, in case of war or something. No one knew about it. When we realized that we had no money, no home, nothing, the only solution was to hide, he said. So they were stuck there for many years, and for how long, they do not remember. Carl and I were shocked, of course. I didn't blame them, because anything can happen, but it was impossible to live like this. At that moment, my family returned. They were happy after the trip. When they saw I was sitting with Carl on a summer holiday and strange homeless people were sitting with us, my mother's eyes were full of indignation. I fed and watered the family, gave them clean clothes, and offered them a bath. After they cleaned up, my parents talked to them. Oddly enough, but they are not angry. For some reason, we took their word for it and wanted to help. My mother called a special service where you could live for free for a while. We gave them some money and left a phone number. They called us the next day when the police found them. We also gave evidence and said that we have no complaints. The father promised to help find a job for that man, but in the meantime, this family also needs psychological support. After all, a woman with children did not go out at all, and who knows how long. From that moment on, we helped them as much as we could. Of course, not immediately, but over time, they came to their senses and began to lead a normal lifestyle.